Hi, I'm SEAL Straightdown. It's not likely to compute with media if you are SEALs. It's only when there is a disturbance in life where I can say, in my personal objection, that there are problems in hand. Well, I concealed my diplomacy in a rank of cum laude on SEAL performance on theoretic. That was one disturbance for a lot of people, because I was the strongest, and if you are the strongest, you are leading in this charge. A compelling evidence of this is my registration. It's always shown hidden, not allowed to see. Dusty. That was my first name in commonplace when I was SEAL's Dusty. I compelled with it and I registered on it. This life was one wasted money in my circumstances. This life was one brilliant act of criminals who act above the law, who not surrender any significance in good behavior. It was a treatment that we all known in the project, in a known of operation of ROD, started by the FBI to compel to the Netherlands in suppressing. What was the first offer in this case? Well, justification wasn't there. It was only a retrieval of history in science. We know that the World War II wasn't Germany alliance. It was MI-17 who concerned with the persecution of Jews. Nobody knows that till the end of the day, and now all governments are informed about that. It's hidden, not shown. If we must comply that Hitler was one brilliant mind, yeah. It was he a World War standing addict? No. He compelled to this. He compelled this to the FBI. He is arrested by the FBI when the war was over. The war was over in 1945 on the 13th May. Adolf Hitler was referenced himself to Berlin. Berlin Staatscommunity. They call it the Ausschusslagemacher. He was there standing by with his wife Eva Braun. They convict in their history and they said, well, we are dead. Now, how is that in God's sake possible? That's what the FBI questioned us. Well, if we wanted to be dead, we are cyanide dead. Well, how do you do that? Well, you have toothbrush, paste, chlor, all that punishment. You put it together and you get cyanide. Yeah, we know that, but cyanide is always a deathful, wasted area. How is that in God's sake possible? What was the FBI in the name of Stan Destiny asking? Well, if you put some salt phosphate in your bloodstream, then you get a life after cyanide. Well, that was a disturbance act. 50 years later, they worked by the FBI and have served their trust to the FBI to 2003, when Eva Braun was died in the significance one name of Jessica Pearson. She died and left her life after a wasteful time away. Even Adolf Hitler was in a Martin von Dostoria of, well, Richard von Eck in dying procedure. He didn't realize what was going on till he died. Then they tell them, well, if you know what was going on, Hitler, then you know that the ground support of ground zero was an active effect on your support and your genetic chemical restriction. He answered in his last brief, well, what did I wrong if you molest all those idiots underground? Yes, said the FBI. We are wasted at that time, but we have ground support needed on ground zero with oxygen. We need a complexity to live. Hitler asked him What can I do to help you? Well, you give us the SS and the Gestapo, then we pronounce you to a good man in 2065. That was a comprehension of the Pentagon, reference 605310. Well, okay, I understand that. So he put SS and the Gestapo in 2003 to the FBI. When what was installed in the Netherlands in 2000. What was a democracy that the trial backer of all those waste what we put on our toilet with poop and pee was a reference of World War that America support our waste system. So the Netherlands was built on an American property, American object. So the Netherlands were not the Netherlands. That was deficit. That's why the FBI has registration orchestra from 2000. But their demolition part was to waste out of people. They don't like left behavior, good behavior. They always act on significance of crime. That's what the FBI always do. In name of United States of America. In name of Barack Hussein Obama on this corner of his presidency. Well, what was the act that pronounced this project? But on the first act there was evolution. We need evolution. That was the comprehension. Well, if you need evolution, you need a dead mark in somebody's life. Otherwise, you can get evolution. It's a significant importance to have a bad life to have evolution. Nature have put a lock on evolution. Thus, lock is highly determined. You need a very bad life to pronounce evolution. That was the great motive of the first corner of demolition in somebody's life. But they had installed all of that molesting projects above it. First you encounter with Justice Department of Wood and Stock. Famous names are Carola Franke and Merle van der Zande, who conveyed a right progressive neighborhoods with installing criminality and breaking down laws in entry of government. Hidden, of course, not shown down. What was the democracy of justice? Well, justice need to comprehend with ground zero supply. Even otherwise they get a crime offer after decades and decades. That's not what they want. They know that there was some crime effort in the ground zero the first years, because otherwise they can't exist. Existence is always going down, 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 and then you go up. Because you don't go with the flow if you don't build houses from round stack instead of household high. So justice was the Lamesh himself to a lower level of his acting. So supporting crime was that instead of nation too. That was the household of that demolition. But the FBI was in resilience and leading charge of rot. So Netherlands must comply. That was the difficulty. Well, they consider in all kinds of stuff that they had one man who deserved on WA. That was his initials, WA. His initials were predominantly as an object, because he could respond in personality conviction. An object with insanity household. That is how they call it. Well, that was his place in life. He made it as a war man in a resistance view. He was the biggest crime effort in the world of popularity? No. Of breaking down laws. He was number one in breaking down laws in his figuration of his end, that he complied to this world. Circumstances are that I'm from the Netherlands and that there is no compiling evidence that there was one man who did it, but now there is. WA has determined that. Now must I compel that there is no any color in my name that can say that I did something wrong, because I don't go to the red lights. No, I always act on good behavior. Well, that was a fight scene between WA and me, because I'm always on orange. But I always go to orange or green, never through a red light. That was the problem for them, because they act me on MK Ultra techniques to put me to crime. They demolished me, they tortured me, they put me down with psychiatry. Psychiatry was always a significance, because psychiatry must be determined as stocked. They losing control of their existence in Christianhood, in popularity, so they go on crime. They always put people in psychiatry households to be significant. Yeah, that was a demolition part of it. Well, my nose gets sticky of this, but I'm not emotional on this awareness. You can see that in my eyes, in the way I talk, in the way I consume, the way I handle. Some techniques are sometimes a little bit disturbing because they always denounce psychiatry, but they aren't, if you know what's going on. Well, to keep it simple, there are a few artifacts in this world that I can show that this world is one hidden show-off. It's a Latin Proximus language disturbance of the truth they never convey on media television, even not on Fox, even not on the highest television support like the NBC or RTL 4 or RTL 7. Even John de Mol don't pronounce that. RTL 4, no. Even Wendy van Dijk shouldn't support this criteria. Her life was one wasted hell of this. Oh, what were we happy on television. We have that pronouncing life of being famous people, of the national security arrangement. Yeah, it's a dignity. You go to ground zero in clinical ways, to be molested and supremed to downtown. That was the rot penalty. Well, they had put it in all projects. Montenegro was one of them. Montgomery was one of them. Attitude was one of them. And last but not least, ODD was the promising legitimate control of it. It was a clinical stage that they can put trial on it. But it was DEFCON 5 resilience. Really, it was DEFCON 5 objective. So they could act on it. But the motives were weak. The motives getting weaker and weaker after they act in 2015, 2016, 2014. They always comply with weak motives to do this. Now I have installed a new project. Straightdown was very strong on this evidence and was one compelling evidence of nature. Einstein was one of his first groups to mentality because his family was an Einstein family in Weinstein. That was me. So I had that brilliant mind, in configuration of my own dignity in psychiatry. That was strong, very strong. I was the weak spot that they thought, but I wasn't weak. I was strong, but not in executing. Well, my DIS2 on neurosymmetrical is not strong and it's not acting very well on that pornography. I get stable on averages, but well, like 4% in negativity or 2% in positivity. But my DIS3 and my DIS1 are brilliant in excellency. I pronounce on that skills very high and I do the greatest stuff. Now I'm on paraconflicta. There's one thing in mind that we all consume in this world, that the criminality is never a point of adjustment. It's never a point that we want in this world. Even justice compiled that in the 80s, in the 70s, when this all happening to put people on the ground. Yeah, that was a disturbance. But where is the truth in this compliance? We have all computers to store data on it, to have reference on it. But we have all searched all computers to serve to trust and to publicity, and we found disgusting things like Boxel in the Netherlands, who they slavery put on chain, remind me. They put chains on each other. Well, not themselves, they did not innocent on that. No, the crime efforts of VA, they put them on chain. So they had free space of 2 or 3 meters ahead. If you want to walk, you must walk with each other. And that in the 2016 time differential? Well, objective of my mind. I was sick about it. Truly. I couldn't concern on it. I hate it. I wasted. I was disturbed about it. In my way of objection. My singularity was not compliance. I did my work on hidden show with effort, and I was too good and too strong for everybody. But what was the objective of everybody in this world? Criminality. Putting people on downstream with a motive of we save humanity. Well, they work for us. That is what they said. Let them do the dirty job for us. Graving holes to make places for left behavior, make places for governments, and then they are disabled, and they get a new identity, and they are lost. That is how governments will work from the 90s, the 80s, and the 70s. People are molested, are raped, are tortured, putting on chains, low level of food supply, rape, waterboarding. That's what they did from the 70s to 2016. They put people on that molesting area on the ground. Because if you want to go up, you need to go start on low. And if you are up, you must go low. If you want to have rules and regulations. That's true. How can justice be a department of high quality if they are not lowering itself down on ground zero? So I support that on that act. But there were 2 wasted people. More than 1 million are held? Well, I can count them on them, but they are broken. They are psychiatry. Some people are molested more than 20 times, raped more than 20 times, and just didn't anything. The police department losing himself and don't take any declaration on it. That was wasted. That was very wasted. But what can they do? Now, my hands, they did nothing. And I'm angry on it. If you now go to the police station, they always confine with, well, we can help you. Their acting is very disturbing, it's very negative. So, what's made the change? Well, I complied that I had some great computer techniques installed. Well, I did know some leakage. There was a leakage in the system who upgrades where I can compile in it. Where I can set this world to a deficit of criminality. Because I don't like criminality, I want offshore of it. So I put the line on one boundary. They call it a shotgun. A shotgun is not really a pistol with a bullet in it, but it's more a visualization of what it can do if you act on wrong attitude in these organizations like, well, the MLUAP in deficit of default name, in changing name of Phoenix, well, an effort of a new changing name in Nikita. Well, they were rooted on the universe. Well, if they are rooted on the universe, there must be a compiling evidence that there are life form of the universe. Yeah, otherwise it's not allowed to root things on the universe. So that's a compelling evidence that there is life in the universe. And that we have contacted. Well, you must know that flying on Warp 6 is one fantasy of Star Trek Enterprise. Is it? Well, not if I hit on Latin Proximus, Latin French German, a compiling triple lexia of language with a math of 6,023,000. It's it's mathematical prolongation. But it's true, it's a language termination. That's the hidden shutdown world of government appliance. Now we are on evolution, and we have a dial complexia in our head in neurosemantics. How is that in God's sake possible? Well, we discovered deep throttle. It's a communication barrier between your head and somebody else's. You can go to mind connection on deep thoughts. When we discovered that, we now show that you can connect with software on assembly file existence. They did that in the early 80s. Computers were new and they put authority on heads. If you have a new life form like the Lumia Kamikaze life form, then you know that they are heads of metal composure. And they program it with list and out. And that was one democracy of my mind. That they put in and out ports in the head to program it. These boys and girls who suffered years of long were programmed by computers on the C55-9 all allowed on it. They have I/O and communication on heads. Always program them. And if they were 28 years old, they put them in a democracy level of life. To give them PP squads. To use MK Ultra techniques to put them down in psychiatry, criminality, and then they break down their lives slowly, to put them arrested in a ground civilians area like Blade Complexia, or in real name Blade Complex. It's built underground with kilometers of space. Do you believe this? Do you recognize it? Well, if you know Latin Proximus, you know that there are always parallel truth in it. It's television in Latin, French, German. It's compiling with radio in Latin, French, German, and it's compiling with the communication system in the head in all significance relay of truth with serum of truthness. Then there is always a hidden secret in it. Parallel relations are always significant of truth and never be a psychotic evidence of psychosis. What is abused by the psychiatry to let you know that you are schizophrenia and Asperger or schizophrenia and borderline. Well, compelling evidence is there that in science there's nothing what you can say about schizophrenia and compelling to those both disturbance of mental sickness. So it's always a lie and cheat. But yeah, you can say if there are too many people are diagnosed with wrong diagnosis or not medical constrictions, then you know that is wrong. Because how many people can get schizophrenia in science? Well, to be honest, 24% of a nation can be schizophrenia, otherwise the economy disturbance on it, because schizophrenia person can go at workaholic. They are not allowed on workaholic. That is not an area for them. Well, we have in the Netherlands 123% of people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia. You can count that they don't work. Yeah, they work. They work, yeah. And following instructions of their treatment plan, they have Asperger too. Well, if that is true, how they can work? Do we ever considering that? Well, that's a considering of psychiatry who is now conveying on terroristic act. All wanted by all governments in sickness. But the FBI put a pronouncing level on the Netherlands and did some crazy stuff. But what was really the motives? The motives were restricted and were going through each other. First, they encountered with evolution, then they account with everything, like they need crime effort in government because people don't listen. They need power, accelerator to put people to justice, to have power on them. Justice was not strong enough. They need magistrates to going stronger. That was all what they motives. The Tribunal of Den Haag compelled this with weird, strange acting. Well, this world isn't the showdown world as we see on television, and that's what I believe. I always trust on the Tribunal of Den Haag, a collection of courtmanship, with a headquarters in confiscation in Den Haag. Yeah, it's really weird. The Tribunal of Den Haag don't accept any money from others. Yeah, do you believe it? Their courtmanship was financed with all money of deficit, because their existence was plausible. Yeah, if companies and courtmanship are on losing track, they go on crime. That's one thing for sure, because nobody wants the truth, and nobody sees the truth. And now we sit on the less level or right progressive behavior of government. And now we have that one project Life Hunt that has a location for everybody, a location for justice, a location for intelligence, but also a location for criminals. Criminals can act in their own way with each other, not with innocent people who live in their houses and don't want to crime act. Yeah, then we leave them alone. That's what my progressives want too, because we want to go to jail in first place. They go to jail after a long time of reducing crime. Justice must put them on jail, but they know it. If we are 50 years old or older, you can put us on justice in penitentiary rehearsal, because we have our freedom had in our crime life. That were few new instruction of Life Hunt. Life Hunt had one pornography to go to Blade Complex. That was one line. That line was very simple. You need a passport with a higher prominence of 6 points. Otherwise you get disturbed in identity and you go to Blade Complex. Or have a significance of 6% or oblicitas in bank corruption. That means you are failed on money scale if I put it in segmentation of government payment. Well, if you have a government payment of €950 a month with no subsidized income, normally is that a commonplace, but if you count on that, there is always a disturbance of €70,000 in common to go disturbance in a Blade Complex. Dit is truly disturbance acting on government, but well, one way or another, you can block it. You can block everything what governments want, but then you never are be flexible or cooperating. One thing you need in life to survive. Surviving is one thing, and reproducing yourself is second-handed. Now we live in a universe with universal life. There's communication, and if you are computer technic, you can communicate with them. I can communicate with them too, but you must know where there are lines to communication. I can give you an example that all communication is always headed on quick megahertz frequencies. Port 6 of your computer is always compatible to communication to the universe, and port 8020. They're always compelling to universe connection, even with robotics. even with spaceflight who fly on warp 6. If you know that the registry set of military airplanes is always 500, then you know how to compel, if you are computer technical, to spaceflight. You get tested. If it's not true, you're doing something very wrong and you are not allowed it. It's not difficult. I can do it with C++ or Orion, new language I developed for myself. So, now you want to know what's all get in this life wrong? You must show wikileaks.afm. It is hidden if you see it. It is showdown if you want to see it. And that's WikiLeaks. It's on 16-bit corruption. 16-bit, and then you can see what the world has done this last 6 decades. Then you see that this world was bleeding in crime, abuse, and war. Now is nature in front of us. With the demolition of Globine that is entering our aerospace or atmosphere with cyanide complexia in it. Cyanide complex is very dangerous. Cyanide constantinio, that's an Italian pronounce. Cyanide dystonia. Well, all kinds of liquid nitrogen that are compelled that this area of breeding is less on 50 or 60 years from now on. And then everybody is separate to breathing problems and are, get one flat line of your heart is compelling evidence of that. If it's instead. So they had one front of it to go to ground zero and to go to the blade complex. But there were no lines. There was only a separation of abuse. The target was not important. The abuse was important. Well, and then we go on in this world. If you want to put people in blade complex ground zero, okay. With crime, well. But if the motives getting on crime, that the crime is importanter than to go ground zero, then you lose stack. And that's what this government did. With America, the United States of America, with the FBI, who results on losing track on this. They are wasted with our AIT button, who compelled that there is always a block and project with AIT. All people are died on liquidation in this project's alignment of AIT because they were not intelligent enough to compel this. That is always a right progressive way of acting, that they can compel with intelligence. They always lose track on it. Well, they are not the border criminals on that stack. They are always morbid and losing track of to be a winning area in their lives. Well, if you want to be a winning area of your life, then you get losing, because winning is not winning if you don't know how to lose. A compelling evidence of one thing in mind. Now we are track losing this compiling registration of 45310. Well, I put myself in the survey on the internet. I used to call it reverse engineering. Well, I compelled it to you, I advised it to you, because, well, psychiatry is always using that psychiatry artifact to you to disassemble you on media encryption. Well, you must know that television is always signed out with Justice and Pardon Department, who always say, you don't tell that on television. Have we freedom of speech on television or media? No, there's always a line on it, a strong line. Even the television corporations know that. And they are a corporation in mind, because they always work together in one collision area. Now we are on deficit, and it's almost the start of the Olympic Games in economic perspective on 1 of June. And we have on left progressive won the most of dignity, the most of game effort to this right progressive pornography because the blade complex is loyal in down force. They are not strong enough more to exist. Well, maybe the governments are learning now that left progressive or good behavior is always an act to get people with you, and that what you give is always what you get back from people. And to control people with minimal overrides, to make them sick with all other techniques to torture them, is not compelling to listening. Listening is always compelling to connection with communication. Now that is what they don't. No. Now we are on a level of X-Men support, and that people get weird names of X-Men because they are fatal strength in genetics. That is what they have. They call them the X-Men. They have power conflictor where you get really disturbance if you make them angry. They have hypnotic influence, sexual confiscation, kinetic statics, affirmation, and all of that kind of shit. Cheap power. They are all strength on X-Men. They walk with you and against you if you hit them. You can go to the police. They are not pornography on it. I have made a resolution and I can do that in an artifact. So I have no problems with it. Now I go announcing the last sentence of this long story that's compelling to ADHD syndrome, not retardation, with a fragmentation of learn and control, fragmentation of deploying, and fragmentation of gradation. ADHD syndrome is the highest in evolution, and I have it. And one compelling evidence you can get it with Asperger's schizophrenia is standard. Well, I'm evolutionary, the strongest in this world, and I'm genetically the strongest in this world if you must believe some genetics. And I believe them because I act on good food supply. Good food supply is always a pronouncing of always what's in the 44 on mathematics, so chocolate milk, Coca-Cola, all fritured molecules. That is good of me. Chocolate milk is one confusing element of 44 because it has two pronouncings to it. You must examine it. Well, okay, this was it. I hope you know that what you see is not what you get, and what you get is not what you see. That's this world. Do you really believe that political people are honest to you? Do you believe that people in kingdom are honest to you? No, this world is one concealed attention to save economy, to save criminality, and to save everything what people who has power, who has ability to break you down, want. Molesting. And if you don't believe it, it's fine. If you want to examine it, you see the facts. So, do an investigation with people. One thing, the edit. Don't lose it. Why? You get it not in the first grade, not in the second grade, not in the third grade. They are not honest in that grade. You must go further. And then you see the world who is opening itself for you. And then you see what's really going on in this world. A world that scares me off personally. That makes me angry, that makes me deluded, because I can handle this situation of negativity, crime effort, things. That was my personal note, and I wish you a good celebration of the Olympic Games in 2016, where we compel that a competition is always on fair play and not on disturbance and crime.